Hello again everybody, Sammy here, otherwise known as Skullgrimmer, and I'm back here again for another video, and today I'm going to be doing a collection video because I said a while ago in the last video that I did, I would do one of these videos, so why not? So, what am I going to be doing a collection of today? Well, since I focused on movies, I figured that for the moment I'd pay a little bit of attention to video games, because I do own a lot of video games, and you'd be surprised at how many that I own. And since I do own, literally, the 4 PlayStation consoles that I own, not counting the PS4 as of yet, because that's going to come later as things progress, I figured I'd start from the very beginning with the PlayStation 1. And, you know, it's interesting regarding the PlayStation 1, because it's the one console that I don't think I pay nearly as much attention to as I used to anymore, because, if you haven't already seen via the room tour, I do own the PlayStation 1, which was given to me, the chipped PlayStation 1, which is perched awkwardly on the PS3, which that was given to me as a gift by Bob, aka Hulkster. But yeah, like I was saying, I don't pay attention to that console nearly not as much as I used to anymore, because back when I was a child, back when I first had the PS1, not that specific one, but the one I had that was given to me as a gift, I did have, at one point, quite a large collection of PS1 video games, that was mostly stored in 3 boxes. Now it's only downsized to just 1, because, sadly, as the years have gone by, I had to sell/trade in those games to make more space, as well as make more money. But, you know, it's interesting looking back on the PlayStation 1, because it's interesting to see what started this console off, and there have been some great games to go along with that. And even though some of them may not hold up today because of the graphics and the gameplay, those games are quite they do hold a sentimental attachment to some people, and especially to me. And if the game is worth playing, then easily it's worth holding on to a copy of that game. And in this day and age, you can easily access PlayStation 1 games via the PlayStation Network on the PS3. So it seems ultimately pointless nowadays to own both the console as well as copies of those games working for that console. But I like to keep them for different reasons. And like I said before, it's amazing how far we have come regarding the evolution of the PlayStation console, and it's the only console that I own. I know a lot of people own the Xbox and the Nintendo, but personally, the PlayStation for me is what it is for me. It's a sentimental attachment for me. And like I said, I'm not that best of a video game player, because normally when it comes to video games, I play the game and then trade the game in. That's only if the game hasn't done its job to entertain, well, not entertain me, but if the story was good, and if the gameplay was engaging, and if everything about that game was worth keeping around, then I wouldn't trade that game in at all. The PlayStation 1, it's a different thing, I think. So, let's not waste any time. Let's go take a look at the PlayStation 1 collection that I currently own. Okay, so here it is. Here's the one box full of my PlayStation 1 video games. Yeah, this is it, unfortunately. Just one box, because like I said before, originally I literally had 3 boxes full of PlayStation 1 games back when I was a child. And sadly now, it's downsized to just only 1 box, which I think, quite honestly, is more than enough for me, because, like I said, I don't pay nearly enough attention to the PlayStation 1 as I used to when I was a child, because, although the console is still good and it's worth holding on to specifically to play certain games, for me, I usually try and find some games that stand out, and there are some fantastic, wonderful games on this console, but it's harder to kind of find the ones that really stand out and appeal. And I'm always very picky about the things that I enjoy, so that's why it's a bit difficult to really find the ones that really stand out. Plus, as well, like I said, it would seem a bit pointless to keep an old console around when these sorts of games are easily accessible through the internet. So, without any further ado, let's take a look at the collection inside. Dun dun dun. Here it is. Yeah, this is it. This is the little library of PlayStation 1 games that I have. And the interesting thing about this little collection is I have only kept at least 3 games that I have had since I was a child. And the rest are games that I recently bought to go along with the console that I have. And you know, some of these games do stand out for different reasons for me, because I have had a lot of fun playing some of these games, and a few of them I have not yet played / completed, so I feel kind of guilty for saying that. Being a video game player is time-consuming, as you would expect. So, let's see, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to just go through from the very beginning all the way to the very end, and talk about these games and how they have at least impacted me in some way. So let's start off with the first one in the list, which is Heart of Darkness. This is a very obscure game from Eric Chahi, who made games like Another World, and I think he recently made a game called From Dust, which this game stood out for different reasons. The first reason is because the violent, gruesome deaths that go on in this game from the main character, because the main character, basically the story of this game is you play as a boy called Andy, who his dog gets taken to another world, and he has to go back and rescue his dog from the Lord of Darkness. Pardon the stupid generic title, but that's what the name of the guy is. And the main character gets killed in gruesome, disgusting ways, which makes you really wonder: is this game made for children? So that's one of the reasons, and the second reason which this game stood out is that this is one of the first games to have a full orchestral score. The score for this game is fantastically composed by, I think it's Bruce Broughton, who did the score for movies like Tombstone, and it's done by the London Symphony Orchestra, I think. So the score, I think, really stands out. And the scores are really the score for this game really belongs in like a Steven Spielberg movie when you think about it, because if you've listened to the score from this game, it has a very operatic, I don't want to say whimsical, because that's not the right word, but it's upbeat in several places and threatening and powerful in other different elements in the score. And for each of the moments that the score plays throughout the game, which is mostly in the cutscenes. I mean, throughout the gameplay, you don't really hear that much music. But the music really, I think, stands out very well. So this game, it took a while for me to play, if I'm quite honest, because trying to complete this game is impossible without getting ripped apart by the various monsters that come at you and try and kill you. But it's a fun, challenging game to really play. It's really worth checking out as well. Yeah, so if you're familiar with Eric Chahi and this game, I would seriously recommend picking it up. It's a hard, difficult game, but it's fun to play nonetheless. So, Heart of Darkness, very obscure game. And 2 personal favorites of mine, which I really love playing, Blood Omen Legacy of Kain and Soul Reaver Legacy, or Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. And, as you can carefully see on Soul Reaver, it's signed by Michael Bell, who plays the main character of this game, Raziel. Now, I'm a bit late to the party regarding the series, but, you know, I was told through somebody that these games were good, that the storytelling was good, and the voice acting was good, and the mythology was strong, and that person was not wrong. This series, and even though I've been recently playing this series quite a bit, this particular series and the games that follow from there on have become my favorite video game series, specifically because I love vampire mythology, and the mythology in this series, in these 2 games, to really demonstrate how well told the story is beautiful. And the characterization, the character development between Kain, who's voiced by Simon Templeman, and Raziel, who's voiced by Michael Bell, is wonderful. Some of the best voice acting, and I can't speak for I really I don't want to repeat myself from anybody else who has said anything fantastic about these games, but like if I'm saying the exact same thing that someone else has said about these games is 100% true, these games and the other 3 games that followed from there, even Blood Omen, yeah, Blood Omen 2 was a bit of a mixed bag, but including Blood Omen 2. The Legacy of Kain games are some of the best written, the best voice acted, atmospheric, dark fantasy vampire games ever. And having played these two games, I really enjoyed them. Specifically, Soul Reaver 2, because it really, it shows from where you left off with Blood Omen, and the act of choice that you had to take in that game to really make this game possible because of the ending that this one had, really shows how far the universe of Nosgoth has completely fallen into decay thanks to the actions caused by Kain, and it's demonstrated in this game. And me and anti-heroes, I love how anti-heroes are represented in fiction, and how some of them can at least stand out in some way. And if the anti-hero is well written and compelling, like Kain, and even Raziel, even though Raziel wouldn't probably consider that much as an anti-hero, but he, it's impossible for me to really say anything different about these two games. I love playing these two games. Specifically Soul Reaver. Blood Omen I do like, even though Blood Omen is tonally different and different in writing, because Amy Hennig wrote the first Legacy of Kain game in this, which was Soul Reaver. But Blood Omen stands out because it has that RPG element to it, but it's more or less that fun game that really it really brings out the dark fantasy element in that story. So if you have not played these two games, I would seriously recommend that you go play them, because I'm not the best person to really talk about these two games. I mean, there are a lot of different people out there who have said that these games have fantastic writing, fantastic character development, and amazing voice acting from the players. Sorry, the players, as in the characters, the amazing voice acting from the characters. Seriously, go check out those people, and like I said, my opinion on these games is nowhere near as different from anybody else who has been impacted by the amazement of storytelling that has gone into these two games. I hope that one day we can see a new Legacy of Kain game, but for now, Nosgoth looks meh. So when I get onto the PS2 collection that I have, I'll talk a little bit more about Soul Reaver 2, as well as Blood Omen 2, and Defiance, just to really give you a demonstration of how much the series has evolved a little bit since these two games. So, Blood Omen and Soul Reaver, two wonderful games. Play them if you haven't already. Next up is a title that has gained an enormous popularity over the years, and that I have enjoyed playing. Metal Gear Solid. The first, well, it's not the first game in the series, but it's the first Metal Gear solid game in the Metal Gear series. Of course, is signed by Paul Eiding. Like I said, what more can I really say about this game that hasn't already been said? This game is, it's a work of art, an amazing product from Konami, and sadly, my real exposure to the Metal Gear series, because I was born in the wrong period to really properly appreciate games like Metal Gear 2. This game was really my first exposure to the Metal Gear series as it is. So I was a little bit late to the series on this. But Metal Gear Solid really stands out because, again, fantastic characters. The voice acting is very good. I'm not saying that the voice acting isn't very good, but the voice acting stands out very well. Also, as well, depending on the outcome of what happens to Snake as well, because, of course, keeping in mind there are two endings to this game. And this game really is a pinnacle. A pinnacle in where the series would go from there with Konami. And, of course, being the game that Hideo Kojima made, it does stand out. It's a very unique game for different reasons. I've only played it once though, so like I'm ashamed to say that I've only played this game once. But if stealth games for me have a little bit of a on-off occasion. I do like stealth games, and Metal Gear Solid really did stand out as a fun stealth game to play with an amazing story to accompany it. But there's something about this game that really it does require the right mood to really be into this particular game. I'm not saying that the game is bad. It's a fantastic game. I can't say anything else that isn't any different from anyone else that has played this game and loved it. But this game does stand out and is a pinnacle achievement for Konami. And honestly, I think the game is a bit overrated, but I still enjoy playing it. So one day I will go back to revisiting this game and have that same impact again. So Metal Gear Solid, fantastic game. If you haven't played it, you need to play it, because if this game is listed in the books of 101 games that you should, 1001 games you should play before you die, this game is at least in that list to really give you a demonstration of how this game stands out. So Metal Gear Solid, worth the play. Up next, of course, is Silent Hill, another game from Konami, and again, I am late to the party on this game, this series. And you know what, here's the thing, because years ago, I played Resident Evil 2, in fact, and I wasn't really that wowed by it, because like I can't get into zombie lore. And the one thing that I think Silent Hill did that made me really immediately get attached to this series was the atmospheric horror and the amazing level of suspension and terror that goes into this particular game. And surprisingly, the first game has stood out quite well. And even though this game came out in 1999, the graphics are dated somewhat. But the element of fear and dread, as well as horror, and including the atmospheric tension, it really stands the test of time as well. So this game still holds up quite well. And you know, it's difficult for me to really say anything else about this game, because this game has this is how you do a horror game. This is how you do a horror game and make it really work, I think, because with most horror games that rely too much on the overuse of gore and the jump scares and just the unnecessary amount of cliches here and there, I think this game stands out because it really it brought something different, but also brought something a little bit new to the horror game element table, if that makes any sense. Because sadly, a great deal of survival horror games aren't that good when you really think about it, because the Resident Evil series has now descended into being nothing more than just an action-orientated series, and it's no longer a horror, even though you could never really call it a horror, because zombies, like I said, I'm not a big zombie fan. But Silent Hill did stand out because, like I said, the amazing story in this game that really stood out, and the characters, and even the dated FMVs, which you can clearly see on the back of the box, clips from the game, and it really does focus so much on one man's relentless attempt to try and save his daughter from the evil powers that be that will make this daughter into something that she isn't. So yeah, this game really is an amazing achievement for Konami, and I'm repeating myself, I know, I'm sorry, but it's an amazing achievement, not just for Konami, but an amazing achievement of how you do a horror game and you make it stand out and you make it actually be scary, and it finds a way of terrifying you, because if horror isn't doing anything to horrify you, and I can say this for a lot of modern horror, that you rely too much on blood and gore, as well as jump scares, then it's not really that compelling. This is compelling on a horror level and on an atmospheric level, because horror really should always be about the atmosphere and the tension. So I don't think you can go any different way than that. So Silent Hill, again, a fantastic game from Konami. Play it if you haven't. Really good. Up next is Psychic Force. This game stands out because this was a gift from my sister many years ago, back when I was getting into the PlayStation 1 quite a lot. And yeah, this feels kind of weird for me to have this game, because I'm not a fighting game person. I could never get into some of the fighting games, but this game, to me, at least from a different viewpoint, because I love anime, especially old anime, the opening credits scene, which has the amazing theme by, I think it's Hironobu Kageyama, who did the themes for Dragon Ball Z. it's a pretty damn good opening scene. You can't deny that. Psychic Force, I think, is kind of one of those obscure. It's one of those obscure fighting games that really didn't really get that much praise, which is a shame because I love this game, honestly. Yeah, and even though the English version, which is the problem for this game, because this is the English version of the game, the voice acting is a little crap. I'll be honest. The voice acting in English for this game is kind of crap, which is why I'm trying to track this game down again and play it in Japanese, because at least the voice acting there doesn't sound as crap. The problem, though, that, like I said, with this game is that it does look a little bit dated from the way that the levels are designed, because the majority of this game takes place in various different set pieces, like America or Russia or Japan or wherever, and the layout of the game's level is you fight these various array of characters that have different psychic powers. Like one has fire, one has time, one has wind, one has ice, one has electricity. So it kind of sounds like the X-Men, doesn't it? And all of this takes place in like a lined cube throughout the levels of the game. So you're fighting in basically a very clear-looking cube, so you can't really explore the areas that are taking place in this area. But the thing is regarding Psychic Force is that it has gained a little bit of popularity, because I know that they made an anime back some years ago, and this game has been successful enough to at least have sequels. Even though it wasn't a major success overseas, it's been a success in Japan. So, even though I'm not a fighting games fan, this is one that I think really should deserve a bit more attention. So, Psychic Force, it's a decent game for what it is. Alright, up next is Front Mission 3. Now, the Front Mission series, sadly, it's one of those franchises that hasn't really had a chance to really go overseas, because this was the first, correct me if I'm wrong, this was the first game to make, of the Front Mission series to make it overseas, because a lot of the games, I know that recently we had Front Mission Evolved, which I would not consider that game a Front Mission game, I'm sorry, but that game came overseas, and I don't think it did very well, but Front Mission 3, it was one of the first Front Mission games to come overseas and really just have some sort of a success, if you can call it that. But I'm gonna be very ashamed to say that I've played the game, but I have not finished it. I'm sorry. I need to finish it. This game is on the to-finish list, as well as a few others, but this game specifically. Now, the Front Mission series is very unique because it has that strategy element of where you take these mechs, which are called the Wanzers, and you move them from different areas of the terrain. And, of course, you activate their attacks to disable the other enemy Wanzers. And this game's story, it does sound so much like it was taken out of an anime from the 90s, which is kind of where I stand in my appeal for this sort of game, is that I love old anime. And the layout of the story and the design of the characters and just the music really gives you an idea of how much of a product of its time this really is. And, like I said, I have yet to really finish this game, and these sorts of games, because this game is quite long. I've seen some of the clips of the walkthrough, and thankfully I haven't really sped that far enough to really see the end of the game. But this game is awfully, awfully long, so whether or not I will complete this game at some point, I have no idea. I will try to complete this game at some point, but from what I've played, it's a fun game. It's a fun game to really, really get into. So Front Mission 3... It's a fun, well, like I said, I have not finished the game, so I really can't speak for anybody else, but it's a good game to really play, and I have Front Mission 4 and 5 as well. When I get to the PS2 collection, I'll show you those as well. So Front Mission 3, it'd be good. Up next is an import game by Masamune Shirow called Project Horned Owl. Again, another game that I have not finished, but I've only played little bits of. The first 2 levels of the game, and it's a railgun shooter, so if you're familiar with games like Time Crisis, this game be right up your alley. As well as the fact that I do love Masamune Shirow's work, because when he did things like Ghost in the Shell and Dominion Tank Police and Blackmagic M66, that was Shirow's golden years. And it's a shame that Shiro now dedicates most of his career to mostly doing nothing but pornography. But from the cover and from the back of when you see, you can carefully see the little bit of the cutscene right there. This is an anime-based game. There's no other way of looking at it. This game would have made a really good anime at the time if it was made, because the mechs have that Shiro effect. The character designs, all done by Masamune Shiro, stand out quite well in their own unique way. And this game, from what I've played only at the very beginning, is quite fun. So really, well, like I said, this game I will get around to playing at some point, or finishing at some point. And I'm not really the biggest fan of railgun shooter games, because when I played Time Crisis, I wasn't really that wowed by it. This game, at least, and because I'm an anime fan, so it would appeal to me for that one reason, is fun to play. So, Project Morale, I will try to finish at some point in the future. Up next is another imported game, which was from Konami, and this was before Metal Gear Solid, Snatcher. Now, if anyone is familiar with the film Blade Runner, and if you haven't seen the film Blade Runner, then shame on you. This game is an homage to that. This is an homage to Blade Runner, because as you can see, the main character on the front of the box, called Gillian Seed, is modeled after Harrison Ford's character Rick Deckard. And you know, the interesting thing about this game is that I've since this game was originally released on the Sega Mega Drive, I think. There are two versions of this. There's the Mega Drive one and there's this one, which, from what I've heard, the level of graphical imagery, because there is a lot of graphical imagery in that game, has been toned down somewhat in this particular game. And I've only played bits of it to really get the whole understanding of this game's story. So this is, again, sadly, another game that I have yet to finish. I'm sorry, but yeah, some of these games can be a bit of a challenge to really do, but you know what? They're fun for that one reason. So yeah, Snatcher does stand out. At some point, I will finish playing this game, but I saw a couple of the playthroughs on this game as well, and it did look quite fun. The only problem though, because this is on the PlayStation, is that this has no English voice acting, because the Sega Mega Drive one has the English voice acting and English subtitles. This one does not, so this is going to be a bit of a long process to really play, because I don't know Japanese, so it might take a while to get through this bad boy. But looking at it in different ways, aside from being a homage to Blade Runner, it's also homaging films like Akira and Terminator, as you can see in the cyberpunk look of the android right there. And this is a cyberpunk game. I really wish that the Hideo Kojima would at least take a break from MSG. Sorry, MGS. MSG. Yeah, I would really wish that Hideo Kojima would take a break from Metal Gear Solid so he can make a sequel to this, or at least make a reboot of this, because this game, having seen some of the playthroughs, and don't worry, I haven't spoiled the story for myself, but having seen some of the playthroughs, this game is begging for a remake. Because we need more cyberpunk games out there for modern consoles. So Snatcher, again, I will at some point finish playing. I don't know when, but you know what? I will try to make some time for this game. Up next is another import. You're beginning to see a pattern here. Doug TenNaples' The Neverhood, otherwise known in Japan, Clayman no Nezu. Now, I'm aware that this game, The Neverhood, has had a bit of a cult following when it was made, and that it didn't really do that well on the PC, because this is originally a PC game. So, like I said, I'm very late to the party on this one. I saw the Lazy Gamer review on this game, and I'm only familiar with Doug TenNaples through Earthworm Jim, and I love stop motion, so when I saw some of the clips for this game, I was impressed, and I wanted to try and get a copy. The only problem is that trying to find a copy of this game for the PC is ridiculously expensive. If you look on Amazon or on eBay, it's impossible to try and get it for a cheap price. The best you can try, if you're lucky, is to find that game in like a charity shop somewhere for next to nothing, which is impossible because that game is quite rare to find. So, having got a hold of the Japanese version of this game, and played only bits of it, again, sorry, it's another game that I have yet to finish. Yeah, this does look like quite a fun game to play. So, having played the first two parts of this game, it's fun. It's a fun reminder of how fun video games were back then, especially if you're a fan of point-and-click games like from the LucasArts era. This game is right up that alley, so this has had a huge cult following since then. And I'm aware that people have a very negative opinion on Doug Tenable because of his views on what was it, his dislike towards gay marriage, which I've got no comment on that, honestly. I mean, someone's views on homosexuality and on marriage shouldn't really affect what they do, but that's just how I see it. But yeah, the Neverhood, or Claim Nazo as it's called, it's a game that I really have yet to play, so I'm ashamed to say that I have only just got 4 games in this box that I have not played / yet to complete. So the Neverhood really, it does stand out, I think. It stands out for a lot of people who have played it back in the day. So when I get the chance to play it, I will probably give you my thoughts on it regarding how it turns out. So Neverhood, there you go. And finally, to end this box out, we have a very personal favorite of mine, and it's one that stands out because this game was the first PlayStation game I ever got. Tyfu, Wrath of the Tiger. Yeah, remember this gorgeous little beauty from 1999 from DreamWorks Interactive? Yeah. This is another obscure game from that was lost to the mists of time, and I love it. I love this game so much, and I like martial arts films, and martial arts films are fun in different ways to really enjoy. And by playing this game that, of course, is set in ancient China, where you play as this chap here, his name's Tyfu, he's one of the last of the Tiger Clan. You have to basically find out a little bit more about your own past, as well as stop the main antagonist called the Dragon Master. And interesting thing regarding this game, because it was made by DreamWorks, even though it wasn't directly referenced, this game, I think, as the years went by, was a little bit of an influence to the film Kung Fu Panda, because that game, of course, is set in ancient China, and you have anthropomorphic animals doing all the various martial arts kung fu stunts. So this game it's a fun game, at least to me. It's a fun game that I have played so many times, and I have not got bored of it. It is a bit too easy for me now because I played this, oh Jesus, for a very long time. And the story is quite minimal at best. But this, oh, another reason as well why this game stands out is because the main character of this game, Tyfu, is voiced by John DiMaggio, who, when this game came out in 1999, was at the time doing various things for Futurama. So I didn't realize it was him until years later. So I was like, wow, so Jake the Dog / Bender plays the voice of this main character in this video game. Yeah, I mean, this game did have some amazing voice actors. It had John DiMaggio, Stephen Susskind, William Hutkins, John Cassier, Kevin Michael Richardson, another talent as well, Iona Morris, and Alan Oppenheimer. So this does have quite a big body of talent. You know, and it's a shame because after this game was released, DreamWorks Interactive got shut down due to various different reasons. So the chance of ever seeing a remake or a sequel to this game is nil. But I would love to see a remake of this. I would love to see a more expanded story on this particular game. So this game is a personal favorite to me. I love this game. I will never get rid of it. It stands out because it was one of my favorite. It was one of my first PlayStation games I ever got, and like I said, I love this game so much. I would love to see this game be revisited again because this game is so underrated. It's one of the most obscure. Well, not one of the most obscure, but it's in the obscure games you've never played / never heard of list. It's one that I think really deserves as much love as it should get. So that's Tyfu, Wrath of the Tiger, a really fun game that I would recommend. If you're a fan of martial arts, I would recommend checking this out. So, that's it. That's the PS1 collection. I'm sorry that that's not much, but really, what can you expect? I don't have that much PlayStation 1 games anymore. I might get a few more, depending on what stands out to me. But for the moment, that's what I've got. So the one box, I think, is enough to really appeal to someone who's at least interested in this. So yeah, my collection is quite small, and some of these games do stand out for me for different reasons. I love playing them for the story, because I'm one of those game players that loves playing it for the story. The graphics can be as dog shit as they are, but if the writing and the voice acting, well, if the voice acting can be good, if the writing and the story is appealing to you, depending on what genre of game you're playing, then it's doing something to really keep you happy, I think. That's the one thing I think video games should always do. But with that being said, yeah, that's my whole PS1 collection in a nutshell. I'm sorry that's not much, but like I said, I don't own that much PS1 games. So the next collection I do, keep an eye on that for, keep an eye out for another collection video at some point in the future. But until then, this is my PS1 collection, as small as it is. And I'm Scott1 Fro. So until then, everybody, thanks for watching. Take care. See you all soon.